Sometimes scientists are too quick to assume that the best way to conserve nature is to keep people out. And that approach doesn't recognize the integral nature between human communities and their ecosystems. Tribal communities, including here in the Pacific Northwest, the Yurok, the Hupa, the Karuk, the Wiyot, their whole world view really emphasizes the integral role of people in the ecosystem. And they acknowledge that human well-being really depends on maintaining some kind of a reciprocal relationship with nature. And when you have that recognition, that kind of changes the conversation from kind of an old school view of conservation, and that is, how do we protect nature from people, to a much more open conversation about how do we conserve nature for people.
Wiyot territory is a very massive territory. I mean, we run out to Bear Mountain Ridge, to Chalk Mountain, to Berry Summit, to Little River. That is our ancestral territory. So we have a huge ancestral territory that we need to take care of. HSU does sit on Wiyot territory.
Well, I think a lot of the environmental movement really fails to understand that there's this big population of people still in America and all over the world that have just a unique relationship with the landscape that many of us don't have. As we're looking for ways to solve the big picture problems that we're facing with global warming, there are people who live sustainably with the environment for a long time that we should be asking advice from.
Traditional knowledge is knowledge that we've gathered over thousands of years through observation, through practicing, through this kind of adaptive management process. If a certain way didn't work, then let's try the other way next year, and then make sure that we pass that information on to our kids and grandkids so that that stays with our community as this is the way that works.
And a lot of the times, traditional ecological knowledge, it's kind of like a new concept for a lot of Western science folks. They think it's like just a definition. They think it's just a workshop you do on the weekends, or it's just a season, but it's a lifestyle. TEK is a lifestyle that is everyday exercise. It's engaging with the environment, engaging with the resources that are relatives to us, like maintaining their health so we could be healthy. It's like this reciprocated relationship on a day-to-day level, and that comes with land management practices as a form of our religion.
It's understanding a lot more than just empirical data. It's understanding the seasons and the moon cycles and the tides and many other things. For instance, some of my elders, when the spring salmons show up or something, they don't say, oh, it's March, the spring salmon will be in soon. My auntie would say, oh, look, the dogwood is blooming, or a certain flower was blooming. The spring salmon will be here any day. Or look, that tree, the leaves just died on it. The eels will be showing up any day now. So that's like a whole different thought process.
Traditional ecological knowledge equals diversity and harmony. So that's what our prescription of the world, the earth, was to be able to manage that benefits all creation in a sustainable type of way.
Well, a lot of times in today's society, the focus tends to move towards the socioeconomic aspects of a given action. Right now, all of the socioeconomic focus is driving us to species decline and regulatory hurdles that have to be overcome, whereas the way we look at things is we start with the socio-ecological aspects of the situation. And so the economics can follow. If you start with the socio-ecologic focus, you can bring the socio-economic piece along with you.
Our knowledge, minimum 10,000 years old. That's a lot of scientific experimentation. That's a lot of time to experiment and try and see what works, see what doesn't work, try again. So all these things that we're doing now, in any of the disciplines where we're sort of like theorizing, making a hypothesis, figuring it out, Native people are doing that too. And then they were like, this is what works. So that knowledge is sort of like, after 10,000 years of that, that's a pretty mature knowledge about how the world functions.
People who have lived in the same place for thousands of years have to be really, really good at some aspects of the Western scientific method. I mean, they have to be super keen observers. They do types of experiments where, well, if we burn at this level, then we can keep the grubs out of the acorns. If we burn too much, we're going to kill the tree. There's kind of experiments through time, or replicates through time. I'm in a biological sciences department at HSU. My goal is just to expand perspective on the different ways of learning about the world. And TEK is particularly suited to what we do up here at Humboldt and blended with what we do, because a lot of what we teach about are natural resources and ecological types of knowledge.
One of the common challenges for students who are interested in a particular line of science, when they arrive to campus, they want to study ornithology and mammalogy and advanced ecology and all those things. But to study all those, you first need to study introductory chemistry and statistics and botany and biology. And so one of the things we're trying to do is to illustrate how those foundational sciences actually matter, because studying those disciplines not only prepares you for the later sciences, studying those disciplines also has relevance to local communities.
I always have people reaching out to me and being like, I want to be able to know more about what Native people know about astronomy, what Native people know about plants, what Native people know about the soils. Education like here at Humboldt, where we're doing place-based learning communities that say, we want that to be a part of your education because there is something you can get from that that is going to push your research, the way that you do things, your science forward.
I think it really helps students have a much better understanding of how important science and math and engineering are to everyday life, and also to see the relationships between them and multiple ways of knowing. So the relationships between a laboratory course like chemistry, to math, to Native American studies, and then how all of those pieces of information and disciplines contribute to helping people from all places solve various issues that face them and their communities.
So I often find ourselves in this age having the traditional knowledge and the technology, and that's where particularly working with the students here at Humboldt State, they're more that computer savvy, I'd say, or that capacity and the more emergent technology, but then working with elders who have that more traditional longer term perspective. And when you align those, you can have a really complex but elegant study in your full circle of research.
Traditional Western science shares some attributes with traditional ecological knowledge. They all rest on careful observation of the world and noticing how animals or plants or the environment is interacting, and then gathering information and sharing that with others. And they differ in how they do those sorts of things. But collectively, all these ways of knowing, traditional ecological knowledge as well as Western science, can advance our understanding of how we can live sustainably on this planet. And so having the humility to stand back and listen to what other people have to say, to what other cultures have learned, and then to share what you've learned from your place. That's really, a lot of what the learning community concept is all about. We learn from each other and we help each other learn.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to be at an institution that supports my personal beliefs as well as my academic beliefs. So that's the unique thing about Humboldt State. That's what our whole culture is about, is acknowledging and valuing the people who would walk before us, but also understanding that we got to leave that same type of impact on future generations.